Niall, you've just come from Tourism Ireland's Ready for Recovery virtual event. It was very impressive. How do you see 2021 for Irish tourism?
Well, first of all, thanks a million for having me here today, Owen. I think what was important about today was really putting out a statement with a framework for how we see recovery unfolding in the coming number of months and years. And we were asked this initially by our ministers back in April, which we were only entering into the pandemic at the time. And we just started to have a conversation around, what does restart look like? I mean, that'll unfold into a rebuild and ultimately into a redesign, which will provide a framework for the long-term sustainable recovery of the industry. But next year is really about, restart. It's about survival. And the way we see things panning out right now is that the vaccine is the greatest hope on the horizon. And what we are planning for now is that, fingers crossed, vaccine getting into the marketplace in December, January, February, March and onwards, and international travel recommencing in Q2 next year. But Tourism Ireland out about a quarter before that. So we're launching a new campaign called the Green Button around St. Patrick's Week, with an intention of restoring travel sometime during the stage of Q2, Q3 to save the summer for next season. And as I said this morning, Owen, I mean, there's an awful lot of movement here. I mean, when we went into this pandemic last March, we genuinely thought we'd be back for the summer season. So I think we have to be ready for every eventuality. Things could go better, they could go worse. But right now, we have the structures, campaigns in place and ready to go for St. Patrick's Week.
Yeah, I think, we obviously lost last summer to overseas tourists. To lose 2 summers in a row would be terminal. So I think you're dead right. We have to do all we can to rescue business for next summer. You've been carrying out a lot of research. Your COVID tracker, I think you'd be doing it on a monthly basis in all the main markets. The good news, I suppose, is that the overseas consumer is still positively disposed to Ireland.
Yeah, we've done our COVID tracker in our top 4 markets every month. That's Great Britain, the United States, France, Germany. And we've done 2 deep dives into our 11 top revenue markets to keep an eye on what's been said there. So we've got good trend data. And exactly what you said. People are looking at Ireland as an attractive destination. People are bursting to get out of the blocks and travel again in 2021. They're seeing summer 21 as being the most likely time they're going to travel again. No surprise when people would say high levels of COVID infection put people off travel. There's no surprise in that. But the other thing that's most critical for us is that people are saying that they want to travel to places they've been before. They want to, go back to repeat where they've been and also visit their friends and their family. And that augurs well for us for short haul markets, particularly the likes of Great Britain, where people are very comfortable, they're very familiar. And it's very different from the conversation we would have had a year or 2 ago, where people were looking for the new destination, the braggable destination. So I think Great Britain, mainland Europe are certainly on the cards for next summer, but North America as well. I mean, there are various parts of North America that really are short haul from my perspective. It's only a 5-hour flight from the east coast of the States. And North America is showing the strongest interest in Ireland right now in our tracking surveys.
Yeah, it's so fluid a situation now, as we've discussed, but how quickly do you think, or do your research people or your economist people think we might get back to sort of 2019 health? Obviously, we don't expect it straight away, but what's the sort of roadmap for Irish tourism in the years ahead?
We've done a bit of work with Oxford Economics, who are probably the leading forecasters in the area, and there are an awful lot of fluid factors here. I mean, there's the state of the economy, consumer confidence, air connectivity, Brexit, COVID itself. But, putting all that together, I suspect we're looking at a recovery of 4 to 5 years. But there are an awful lot of factors that impinge on that, and we will keep an eye on it. We'll keep talking to the forecasters. But I think those are the factors as we head into 2021 that will be relevant. We didn't put a number out for next year. I don't think anyone could be confident enough to do that. It all depends on the timing of when the recovery comes. But I think the short term will see a significant boost because of the willingness to get out there and the pent-up demand. But to get back to the 2019 levels will require air connectivity on a scale of what we saw then, which is about 620,000 seats every week in the summer season.
And your marketing budget, I think it's pretty much stable next year vis-a-vis what it was this year, which I suppose is a success to a certain extent, although we'd all love more money. But your marketing budget, it often follows it goes to the markets with most potential, and often that is determined by air access. And of course, air access is completely, excuse the pun, up in the air. It's been a traumatic year for aviation. When will you get a handle on routes and frequency and that sort of thing? Because as an island nation, we're hugely dependent on both air and sea.
Yeah, good question. I mean, the first point you made about the budget, it is held line ball for next year, which is good. Now, the Tourism Recovery Task Force had recommended a doubling of the tourism marketing fund, but in fairness, I think, from the government's perspective, the emphasis is on helping the industry survive. So our colleagues in Fáilte Ireland got a few extra bob to help that sort of survival aspect, which is the first priority. We have to have an industry that's alive, so people can come. So hopefully, the tourism marketing budget, we can look to maybe enhance that as things start to open up again during the course next year. Connectivity is absolutely key. We've seen a decimation of stats. I mean, minus 92% in November. There's no point in quoting them anymore. It's just so bad. But we have worked on the Aviation Recovery Task Force. We are members of that. We're still talking to all the airlines. I was talking to the new Secretary General of the Department of Transport this afternoon, Ken Spratt. He's agreed to meet me in the new year and to lend any support he possibly can in relation to the restoration of connectivity. I think short-haul markets will come back in terms of connectivity quite quickly, because we're lucky we've got the likes of Ryanair and Aer Lingus who serve Ireland really well. I think longer-haul markets, well, certainly the United States, we'll see hub airports come back quick, like Boston, New York, Chicago. But the success and growth of Irish tourism in the last 3 or 4 years was down to other routes like Dallas, San Francisco, Seattle, Los Angeles, and I think a bit of work maybe needed there. The longer haul markets like the Chinas, the Indias, etc., we're probably looking at a longer term recovery for 2022 and beyond.
Yeah, it's so fluid. I mean, you mentioned that we would have met last March when COVID was sort of commencing, and we thought then that we might still get June, July, August out of it, and of course, and we were disappointed on that front. It's still very fluid because we don't know how quickly the vaccine will be rolled out, both here in Ireland, but nearly more importantly in our overseas markets. So I assume all your marketing plans and your strategy for this year has got to have an inbuilt sort of nimbleness and agility within it to deal with whatever the circumstances throw up.
Yeah, I mean, we're really only planning by the quarter at the moment. I mean, there's no point in putting a full year plan out. It wouldn't make any sense. We are looking at issues on a daily and weekly basis. For example, ECDC, the European Centre for Disease Control, infection rates, which they publish every week, are being monitored because ultimately that trend will dictate the speed at which we recover in various markets. Will we come back in one market? Will we come back in two? Come back in all? We don't actually know for now. So what we are doing at the moment is that we have a really good video, Let's Get Back to Ireland. It builds on the I Will Return video we did earlier on during the year, getting people to think about Ireland, because this is the time that a lot of people think about coming on their holidays. We have a diaspora campaign out there because people can't come home, and the message really is to connect with them and say, look, when you are coming back and it's safe to travel, make sure you come back home to visit your friends and family. That's a terrific campaign. We've got a nice campaign with Other Voices and the Guinness Storehouse going out as well. We have a lot of good opportunities on the publicity front locked in for next year. The likes of Peter Greenberg, the travel editor of CBS, is going to do a big show for us, Hidden Ireland. We've also got the likes of programs on Sky Arts. We've got programs on ITV. Some really good opportunities that are lined up. Adrian Dunbar doing a program on Channel 5, which is already in the can. So the big part on the digital side, of course, is the redevelopment of Ireland.com. And between now and the end of January, we'll see 33 new sites open in 30 markets in about 11 different languages. And that will increase performance, it'll increase our capacity to personalize messages, which is a big departure for us. And also it means we're fully mobile enabled now as well. So good building blocks in for the future.
Yeah, great. So 2021, are we kind of going to settle on kind of cautiously optimistic? Can we fix on a word that we're both comfortable with? It has to be better than 2020.
Well, that's not the phrase I'll use. It has to be better than 2020. I think anything will be better than 2020. But I think ready for recovery was the phrase that we used today. We are ready for recovery. And no one has a crystal ball. No one can say for sure exactly when that will come. And when it comes, I think it'll happen quicker than we think. I think when infection rates are under control, when this disease shows that it's turned its back and it's on the way out the door, people will move, and they'll move fast. And I think there'll be an amazing, amazing whoosh of travel. People are longing to get home. But there are an awful lot of people that are stranded in countries that can't get back to see their friends, see their family. And there will be people, because our research tells us, that they can't wait to get back to have a holiday. And the job for us over the next number of months is to make sure that Ireland is number one on the list, and that they push the green button, hopefully around St. Patrick's Day, and book their trip.
Great, Niall. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks very much, Owen. And just to say to all the industry, a very happy Christmas, a prosperous new year. And thanks for all your support and all the collaboration that's managed to help us keep the lights on for Ireland.
Thanks, Niall.